First site on the list is a site that sells credit card dumps. Track 1 and Track 2 with full CVV information. So it just comes down to this. In this day and age, being a Google ninja and knowing how to do searches on Google or Bing brings you to the information that you want. So you don't have to know how to write a bot. You don't have to know how to send out spam. All you have to do is know how to search Google to get the information to lead you to the right site.
Websites that teach how to steal passwords. Phishing sites that lure you in and then steal your identity. Criminals have as many ways to get you to do what they want you to do in the cyber world as they do in the physical world.
You know, you got to give the bad guys credit for that. They're pretty astute at picking up on what people search for and what they think people are going to search for, and then presetting sites so they're already there. You know, if the ground starts shaking and there's an earthquake or a fire, you know phishing sites are getting registered as it's happening. You know, it's like it's an automated script.
And you can see that too, like with the MTV Music Awards, when a couple of years ago, they debuted the New Moon trailer. The very next day, New Moon JPEGs infected, New Moon this infected, New Moon that infected. I mean, because they knew that's where people were going.
Unlike the 90s, when you were infected with something, you knew you were infected. But now the threat landscape, it's over. The threat landscape now, it's all behind the scenes. And unless you're a technical person where you know what you're looking for, many people would continue on.
Never know it's there. It's absolutely like a chess game. They make a move, we make a move. We come out with a certain type of technology. They come out with a way to evade that technology. We tighten up the technology. They figure out a way to evade the new tightening.
Here is an instance of the ARPANET as it was recently configured, as you can see, with some 25 or 30 sites in it.
The internet was created by scientists working for DoD as a communications tool that would survive a nuclear war. And they didn't think about security or trust because survivability and the ability to connect was much more important.
And like most technologies developed for government use, the internet found its way into public hands.
Well, there's a revolution going on in rec rooms, offices, and classrooms around the world. A revolution in which 15 million people are taking part. They're sharing scientific data, arguing philosophy, or passing on cooking tips and gossip, night and day through a computer network called Internet.
And then there was a big boom with Internet, and public got access to all these networks. It was spreading with the same security design. I mean, no security.
People love the internet, so they're going to put all kinds of stuff on it. Information, data, weapons, planning, personal information. They're just going to dump it on because they love it so much, and they're not going to secure it.
The internet grew quickly, opening many new doorways. But security wasn't a priority.
Because humans are humans, so first of all we think about functionality, flexibility, easy of use. Well, the government comes taxation, and then about security. The security is number last to think about.
The very foundation, the fabric that holds our society together, what makes us powerful and prosperous, also imperils us. That's our connectivity through cyberspace. And if we don't take the appropriate means, the means we know can make us more secure, then I think we have a potential catastrophe looming.
Everything is vulnerable. Being alive means you're vulnerable. If you want to be not vulnerable, you have to be dead, you have to be a rock. But, you know, so what? Welcome to the world.
One of our greatest vulnerabilities might be right under our nose. We live in an automated world. Much of what we've come to depend on in our daily lives is controlled by industrial control systems. little boxes called Programmable Logic Controllers, or PLCs, are connected to bigger networks called SCADA, Systems Control and Data Acquisition. Together, they control lots of things we tend not to think about until they stop working. Behind every elevator is a PLC. Behind HVAC systems are PLCs. Behind every water treatment plant, natural gas pipeline, traffic signal, assembly plant, and even the power grid are PLCs and SCADA systems.
So SCADA systems turn valves on and off. They open and shut things. Some of these systems are decades old. They run automatically, and they sort of make our infrastructure work.
This is where it becomes very, very scary. Because, let's say you just, instead of the device opening and closing the circuit, let's say you stick it in open or you stick it in closed. Boom, you overflow the pipe bursts.
We didn't used to have to worry about this because the networks ran some funky code that was written by two guys in a basement in Maryland. What's happened is it's cheaper and faster to move those functions off the old proprietary networks onto the internet.
So, once again, in the battle between cheap and fast, or safe and secure, cheap and fast wins.
SCADA systems are less secure than most people's home network machines are. Oftentimes they have to run on older operating systems, so they have to run older types of code which cannot benefit from newer security technologies.
And in many cases, they're impossible to update. It's not like you get a new version of Windows. I mean, these things are embedded hardware, everything's hardwired, you can't make changes.
Most people's home PCs are probably better protected in a lot of cases.
SCADA systems and PLCs are at the very heart of our power grid. If an attacker could sabotage these control systems, it could have a crippling effect. But exactly how vulnerable is the grid? The Department of Homeland Security decided to perform an experiment.
It's Department of Homeland Security asked some hackers to attack an electric power generator. And using a laptop with a little manipulation, they caused it to self-destruct.
The details are classified, but it appears that a group of hackers with no inside knowledge penetrated the security system and then took control of the generator.
The experiment stopped short of causing the generator to fly apart, but it demonstrated that it could have caused the generator to spin at such a rate. Had it been connected to the grid, it would have flown across the room and broken up into pieces.
The Aurora experiment raised the stakes, proving that in a real-world environment, weaponized code could penetrate and destroy critical infrastructure.
Attacking things like water systems, electrical grid, the phone companies, that's been part of every nation's military plans for more than 60 years now. What they have now is a new way to do it. You can do it using cyberspace. It's difficult. You can't do this at home. But if you have lots of money and people, you can overcome the obstacles. So we know there's probably a half dozen countries in the world that have developed cyber weapons and could use them in the event of a crisis.
Almost everything we have come to rely on in day-to-day life has become vulnerable. Energy, food, water, medicine are all controlled by networks which, if attacked, could fail, leaving us cold, dark, hungry, and sick.
We're at a point in time now with potential conflict. Think about how it moved in history. Armies to move over ground took weeks and months and years. Then ballistic missiles, and it was like one continent to the other in 30 minutes. Well, now one continent to the other is 30 milliseconds. 30 milliseconds.
This idea of cyber terrorism came to our mind a decade back. But we were not talking about that because it's just better to not to talk about that to media, because we didn't want have a bad guys or people which are much worse than bad guys having this idea. So that's why I was really surprised to enjoy Die Hard 4 movie. That was a shock for me. Half of the movie that's just simply impossible, but half of the movie, that's possible. So I was watching the movie with a glass of whiskey, and within after 10-15 minutes I paused the movie. I had a cigarette. I said everything that I think about Hollywood.